Hello and welcome to another edition of the Paul's Body Engineering Podcast. It's been a while. It has been a while. It's been a few minutes, but I'm back and I want to try and do a few more of these because, it is important. And every year, I've been doing this since, when did we have the pandemic lockdowns? 2020, I think it was. So it's been a long time. And, the objective of this podcast, as much as I would like to say it's highly successful, I don't make any money out of it. It's purely for educational purposes. It's a great, obviously, exposure tool for me. But more important than that, it gives me a greater platform to sort of get my professional opinions and personal opinions across. Often when I'm working with clients, it isn't a broad audience. And, some of the things I know, some of the things I've learned, some of the things I've experienced, I'd like to share. And I think this gives me a great opportunity to do that. So I thank I thank everybody who listens in when these do pop up in your feed, and really do appreciate the support and recognition that I do get from these podcasts. So this week I thought I'd talk about a topic that I talk about a lot, and I use the term a lot. And I talk about it when I'm talking to clients, I talk about it when I do content, whether it's on social media, whether it's written, and that is repetition. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be successful in anything you do, and I can apply this to anything you do, whether it's career, whether it's home life, whether it's finances, whether it's health and fitness, whether it's weight loss, whether it's professional sport, whether it's a brand new sport, whether it's something you've never done before, repetition is what will create success for you. So what does that look like? And let's break it down, and I'll try and use an example or examples, plural, that people can relate to. So when we go to school, and obviously school does evolve and change in terms of the methods they use to teach people, but when I went to school in particular, repetition was the principal means of learning, because what they would do is they'd teach you how to do something. Let's say it's a maths equation, and then you would go over and do it again, and then you would do it again, and then you would do it again, and then they'd give it to you in a different way or a different scenario, and then you would do it again. And throughout the course of the semester, you would probably do it 50 or 100 times to a point where it was embedded in your brain, so that when it came to the final exam, you pretty much knew what you were doing, unless you were lazy like I was and didn't pay a lot of attention in class. But the point is, repetition got you home. It got you across the line. Now, you apply that to any career. So anyone listening to this, you've got a career, right? You've worked really hard to do a career. It could be anything. You could be an accountant. You could be a lawyer. You could be a banker. You could be, like me, a health and fitness professional. You could be a bricklayer. You could be a carpenter. You could be a mechanic. All of those jobs required time for you to get better at them. And through that time, the way you learnt was through repetition. If you're a mechanic, you do, and again, it may have changed, but you do a 4-year apprenticeship. And through that 4 years, you learn through repetition of, the ins and outs of the car, the nuts and bolts, the tools, the way you flush an engine, the way you change oil, the way the battery goes in and out. Like, you learn through repetition. The same thing if you're a white-collar worker, like an accountant. You have to learn to use Xero or MYOB or another accounting software. So the only way to learn is to go in and do it over again, and do it and learn and fail and do it again and fail again and learn again and get better and better and better. And that's the only way. Now, when it comes to health and fitness, which is obviously the principal topic of all the podcasts I do, if you want to get better at something, it's repetition. So for example, if you want to succeed in the gym and excel in the gym and develop confidence in the gym and lift heavier in the gym, you do the same movements over and over and over again. You learn, you engage with a personal trainer, you watch videos online, you film yourself training, you look back and you go, okay, I need to fix this, I need to do this better, I need to shift my weight here, I need to feel this here. And that's how you get better. This whole ideology of recent times where people want their programs changed every couple of weeks is absolutely ludicrous, because you cannot adapt to a program in 2 to 4 weeks. It just doesn't happen. 6 weeks is a stretch. 8 weeks is probably a pass mark, and that's what I do a lot of my programming at. But the longer you run the same program, the more success you're going to have, because ding, 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 there is repetition. You are doing the same exercise over 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks, 20 weeks. The longer you run it, the better you get at it. Now some people argue, well, that's boring. that's going to, it gets boring. Well, too bad. Too bad. If you want to succeed at anything, you've got to do it over and over and over again. Do you think the mechanic who had to do a 4-year apprenticeship said that what he was doing was boring? No, he wanted to succeed. He wanted to actually achieve a career. He wanted to become a mechanic. The accountant, I know for a fact that looking at numbers on spreadsheets and in MYOB and Xero, because I have to do it for my business, is ridiculously boring. But I have to do it. And through repetition, I get better at it. Granted, I pay an accountant to do it, but the point is, as an accountant, as someone who's learning to be an accountant, you have to do it over and over and over again. So when it comes to health and fitness, and in particular the example I just gave of weight training, if you want to be better at a squat, if you want to be better at a deadlift, if you want to be better at a lunge, if you want to be better at a bench press, you do it over and over and over again. If you see people like leg pressing 200 kilos or 300 kilos, if you're a female and you see a 200 kilo leg press, you go, God, I wish I could do that. Well, do it. Set it aside once or twice a week for the next 6 months and get stronger at the bloody thing and do it. There's no reason why you can't. I have girls come up to me a lot when, not come up to me, that sounded terrible. I have women, females, approach me, particularly those that I train sometimes, and ask, they want to do a single chin-up. That's one of their big strength goals. I want to do a single chin-up. Okay, so let's put a plan in place to do that. You're going to use the assisted chin-up machine a couple of times a week. You're going to do banded assisted chin-up machines a couple of times a week. You're going to do some inverted pull-ups a couple of times a week. You're going to do a bunch of lat pull-downs a couple of times a week. And you're going to run that same program for the next 12 to 16 weeks, in which time, every single week, you're going to have an attempt at a pull-up. You're going to have an attempt at a chin-up. You're going to keep trying to progress that particular movement while developing the strength in that movement through all those other movements that I just mentioned. That's how you succeed. And that, my friend, is the fundamentals of repetition. Now, getting to the thing that most people struggle with, nutrition. Nutrition. It is nearly everyone's Achilles heel. Everyone's Achilles heel, and I could go on and on and on about this. But if you want to have success with nutrition, if you want to have what we deem consistency, the magic word, consistency with nutrition, repetition is key. Now, people will argue, but I like variety. I don't want to get bored with my food. Too bad. Do you think the cavemen got bored with their food? Do you think, the first settlers got bored with their food? No. They didn't have all this fancy processed packaged food available. They basically had very, very simple food, because at the end of the day, they didn't care. They didn't have an emotional attachment with food. They didn't want or care that food made them feel good or warm or cozy or fuzzy inside. They cared about survival. They cared about fueling their bodies so they could get about their business and conquering the world or whatever it is that they needed to do. They didn't care that food gave them that feeling. So we need to focus more on eating things simply, eating things repetitively, and doing the same thing over and over again to have success. The greatest success stories when it comes to weight loss, fat loss, body recomposition, physical change comes from repetition. It truly does. You ask anyone who has had a transformation journey that you've noted in the gym or you've seen online, send them a message, how did you do it? What was the one thing that you would recommend? And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10 they're going to say repetition. I ate the same lunches every day. I ate the same dinners every day. Or I rotated between 3 dinners every week. Again, just to provide a little bit of variety, but they still achieved repetition. And that's what people need to realise. Yes, you need to be organised. You still need to be consistent. You still have to turn up and not binge yourself on donuts and hot chips and ice cream and alcohol and stuff. But repetition will get you the results that you want. It's that simple. It is that fundamentally simple. Repeat the process over and over and over again. Get better at it. Learn when you fail. Learn when you win. Continue to grow. Continue to adapt. Continue to get better. And you will achieve success. It is that simple. But unfortunately, when it comes to food in particular, we're swayed so much by socialising. We're swayed so much by clever marketing. We're swayed so much by, do you know, and I've said this plenty of times before, do you know that the big food manufacturers, they sit in the lab and they congregate in a meeting and they go, right, how can we make the food we've already got more tastier, more palatable, more addictive, more colourful, and more desirable to the individual? That's what they do. They do that on purpose because they want you to buy it, they want you to eat it, they want you to buy it again, and they want you to continue eating it. That's why we have an obesity epidemic, because that food is made up of chemicals. It is made up of ridiculously chemically engineered products that are barely recognizable as food, but they're so desirable, so palatable, so tasty that people struggle to say no. So when you get into a weight loss journey, the key is to slowly break yourself away from that and just repetitively eat the same food. Yeah, it sounds boring, it sounds bland, it sounds mundane, but that is the escape that you need. You need that to create new habits, to create a new routine, to create new structure. Because without it, you're going to go back to old habits very, very quickly and then rely on convenience food and ready-made food and takeaway food that doesn't require preparation. So repetition plays such a vital role in everything that we do, everything. You can't deny it. Like, the more you repeat something, the better you get at it. The more you think about something, the better you get at it. I'm currently studying my master's. Well, I'm about to study my master's, I should say. I haven't actually started yet. Do you know how successful or how scary that's going to be successful? And the only way I know, because I'm old school, is the only way I know to succeed with that degree is to be repetitive, is to read things over and over and over again, to watch video over and over and over again, work on something, rewrite it multiple times before I submit it over and over and over again. It's the only way to do it. In my mind, it's the only way to do it. Look, modern children and those with more modern technology advances and things like that can probably do it slightly differently and slightly better. But at my age, and I'm middle-aged, and I'm happy to admit that, and that's obviously the majority of clientele I work with, this is the way you've got to do things. And it's the only way you're going to succeed. It's through repetition. But repetition doesn't mean perfection. And this is where a lot of people get unstuck, because when they start a diet, when they start a weight loss journey, when they start a health and fitness program of any description, they put perfection on their shoulders, and if they don't achieve it, they kick stones. If they don't achieve it, they feel disappointed. If they don't achieve it, they feel disheartened and let down by themselves. You don't have to be 100%. Repetition is not 100% perfect. Repetition is doing the same thing over and over again. But do you think that same thing over and over again is going to be exactly the same every single time? No, it's not. No, it's not. But what I can tell you is, if you keep persisting with repetition, and if you keep persisting with the ability to do the same thing over and over again, even if it's disrupted, even if it's broken, even if you fall off the tracks and come back on, that success will still be there for you. There's no doubt in my mind. And I gave a great example. I do a lot of what I call coaches comments. So I send video out to my clients, my current clients. And this week I showed an example, a mathematical example of how you can achieve consistency within a year. And obviously I showed the equations. If you will achieve consistency if you train 3 days a week, and it'll give you, I think it was like 47% out of the year if you train 3 days a week. Four days a week was 52% or something like that. 5 days a week was a massive jump to like 71% and so on. So that is what consistency looks like. But imagine if you apply repetition to that. Within that 3 days a week, how much repetition you can achieve and how much you can actually achieve by doing the same thing over and over again. And everyone's different too. And that's another thing that needs to be very clear. Your learning rate, your ability to adapt, your ability to absorb information is different to the next person. Just because they picked it up quicker, or they're having a greater success story, or they're losing more weight, or they're training better, or they're lifting bigger, doesn't mean you have to be at the same rate of pace. Doesn't mean you have to be doing the same thing too. You're very different. You're biologically different. You're physiologically different. There's no need to try and emulate what the next person is doing. You do it at your own pace. You set your own pace, and you achieve great things at your own pace. And I think that's a really important piece to take home, because if we stop comparing, if we stop trying to achieve perfection, and if we have a little bit more self-control and a little bit more discipline and a lot more repetition and consistency, hell, I'd be out of a job. It's as simple as that. Like, I must admit, when AI first sort of launched, I was very skeptical and I was very concerned, because I thought, right, well, people can jump on there and write their own meal plans. People can jump on there and write their own training programs. Easy enough. You tell them what you need and they'll spit something out for you, right? But what AI can't do is customer service. What AI can't do is empathy. What AI can't do is coaching. And that's where I feel I excel. And I'm not ashamed to admit I feel I'm a very good coach. I know how to talk to people. I know how to read between the lines. I know how to work with people. I know how to get people to be better. So that once I sort of sat with that for a moment, I went, you know what? I don't think I'll ever be without a job. And the main reason I won't be without a job, and the main reason that gyms will always be busy, and the main reason that people in my space will always have work, is because people struggle with self-control. They struggle with discipline. And I go back to the point about food manufacturers producing food that's highly palatable and highly desirable. That will never stop unless someone overhauls the government. And anyway, that's a whole nother discussion for another day, and probably not for this audience. But my point is, through repetition, there will always be success. The way I got to my position, so I'm 12 years in the industry now, and I feel I'm at the peak of my powers in terms of knowledge, education. Hell, I'm about to do a master's degree. I never thought I'd venture back down the uni path. I did a graduate diploma last year. That was my first taste of university in nearly 20 years. And now I've decided to go on and do a master's, and hell, I might do a PhD. You never know. But my point is, through repetition, I was able to get to a point in my career where I felt, you know what, I need to elevate further. I need to look at ways to further advance my knowledge, further advance my position in the industry, my credentials, and just be the best coach I can be for every single client that I currently work with, have worked with, and hopefully will potentially work with in the future. So it's scary, absolutely. But if you're listening to this and you sort of go, oh, whatever, it's a fact. It is truly a fact, and unfortunately, we have to build this into our lifestyle. It's the only way you're going to succeed, unless you're incredibly disciplined. But I'm going to read you a quote that is very relevant to this, and it is, you can't build discipline while protecting bad habits. And unfortunately, a lot of us get into really bad habits that we can't break away from. We can't break out of bad habits, and the bad habits are very much featured within our comfort zone. And our comfort zone keeps us comfortable. It keeps us on the status quo. It keeps us relative. So we're very much concerned when we step out of that comfort zone and we're challenged. And challenge comes in the form of discipline, and it comes in the form of repetition, and it comes in the form of consistency. And people don't like that. They don't like being challenged. They don't like getting out of their comfort zone. They don't like having to work harder. And that's why you don't see a lot of people succeed in the gym. And the gym's a perfect example of that, because you have to be out of your comfort zone when you're in the gym. You have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to feel the discomfort of weight training, the high stimulus of weight training, the quote-unquote pain and discomfort of weight training. You have to feel that in order for your physique to grow. People say, I want to look toned. Okay, well, this is what it takes. Oh, shit, really? Yeah, you got to bust your ass. You got to fucking work ridiculously hard. You got to train like an animal to change your physique. You got to teach your physique through repetition over time that this is the norm, that weight training at this level is the norm, and it has to adapt and change to tolerate the loading you're putting through it. That's the fact of the matter. So repetition is a vital component if you want to change your physique, if you want to quote unquote tone, even though I hate that term, if you want to change your composition, if you want to lose weight, if you want to be a bodybuilder, I guarantee you, like bodybuilding is a prime example of repetition. In fact, it is the pure definition of repetition, because every successful bodybuilder who gets on stage and looks absolutely shredded has had the last 30 weeks of their life, basically it is day by day, hour by hour, repetitive. It is repetition to a T. And what I mean by that is that in bodybuilding, you have to be so succinct with your process that you need to have, well, you don't need to, but it is highly recommended that you eat the same breakfast every single day for 30 weeks. You eat the same lunch every single day for 30 weeks. You eat the same dinner every single day for 30 weeks. And the reason why is because you don't have time to prepare food. You've got to focus on other things. Life still goes on. So you've got a job, you've got family, but you've also got to focus and prioritize training. You've also got to focus and prioritize sleep. You've also got to go and get your steps. Nutrition is just one small component. It's a very important component, but nonetheless it is very, very crucial and very, very key. And through repetition, you take away the stress of preparing a meal. You take away the stress of shopping for food. You take away the stress of organising in advance. It takes a lot of that time away and that stress away. And anxiety and stress is a killer for bodybuilders. So you simplify the process by repeating the same meals over and over again. Now, if your calories happen to get changed, well, you just reduce your portion size. You reduce your carbs, your proteins, and your fats within the meals. And you keep rotating through the same meals. And that's what people do in terms of bodybuilding that have the ultimate success, right? Sure, they might crave some sugar and they might crave a donut or, pizza or whatever at the end of the day because they've been dieting like an animal for 30 weeks. But they also look amazing because they have been repetitive. They have eaten the same thing over and over again, and that's what people need to do. And I'm not saying that for 6 months you have to have eggs on toast every single day. I'm not saying that. You might have eggs on toast on a Monday, and then you might have yogurts, berries, and protein powder on a Tuesday, and then on a Wednesday you might have oats and banana, right? And then on the Thursday you go back to the eggs again. And then on what's the next day? On the Friday, you go back to the yogurt and the berries and stuff again. That's still repetitive. It's just that you've spread it out over the course of 3 days with 3 different meals. That's still repetitive, and that's still going to give you success because you're rotating through the meals. You don't have to have the same food every single day. I'm just using bodybuilding as a prime example because repetition in bodybuilding is one of the major keys to success. If you want to be a successful bodybuilder, in season or out season, repetition is king. A lot of the top-end bodybuilders, a lot of the pro bodybuilders, a lot of the elite-level bodybuilders will run programs 16, 18, 20 weeks at a time before they change because they want to get better at that movement. They want to excel at that movement. They want to make sure, that movement, they hit the ceiling on that movement. They can't go any further. They might top out at a certain weight and go, right, I'm going to run the same weight for the next 4 weeks and then I'm going to change and do a modified variation of it. So they're not even changing it up completely. They're just going to something that's slightly different. Like they're going from a Romanian deadlift to a B-stance deadlift or to a dumbbell Romanian deadlift or Smith machine Romanian deadlift as an example. So they're still going to run the same movement just in a slightly different variation. Still repetition. And that's what will give you results. So look, I hope that has given you a lot of insight into how you can be successful in anything you do. Anything you do. Like we've got the Olympics on at the moment, right? Some of those sports, like this, I was at home just before and I was watching the speed track. So the speed skaters, they go around 500 meters. It's done in like 20 seconds. But I guarantee you, each one of those speed skaters that have qualified for the Olympics would have been around that track and multiple tracks around the world, probably hundreds of thousands of times. Repetition got them to the Olympics because they got better, they learned from their mistakes, they learned what the 1% improvements were. Think about it, like they're only going around the circuit, it's just around in a circle, around in a circle. I think it's like five times for the 500 meters, something like that. There's no margin for error. And how you improve is, yes, you get faster. 2, you learn tactics. And 3, you know how to take corners really sharply and obviously maneuver yourself through the field if you need to. So through repetition and through different scenarios and repeating the same process over and over and over again, those Olympians got better and better, and some of them put themselves in a position to win medals. Same example. Every single event that you see at the Olympics, as an example, there would have been so much practice, so much rehearsal, so much repetition of the same thing over and over and over again to get better, to learn. They would have filmed themselves and reviewed themselves and then broken down the movements and all sorts of stuff. Like the amount of work that goes into it is astonishing. Now, that's obviously elite level stuff, but you can still apply the same principles to everyday life. Okay? How do we learn to drive a car? Right? How do we learn to drive a car? Repetition. We started maybe in the driveway with our parents. Stop, start, move forward, drive backwards, then maybe down a back street somewhere, then maybe in a shopping car park at night somewhere, and then you get some lessons. Through repetition, you got better and better, and that's why they give you, what is it now, 12 months before you can go from from your learners to your Ps. Because repetition over 12 months is going to make you a better driver. It's going to make you a safer driver. You're going to experience a lot more. And repetition is going to allow you to then go from your Ps to your opens and allow you to drive on the road without assistance. Same principles. So I think applying these sorts of things to your health and fitness journey, to your lifestyle, to your savings, to your parenting, to your career, to your studies, to your holiday planning, will give you success. But you've got to do it over and over again. You've got to make the time to do it over and over again. A one-off is not enough. A two-off is not enough. You've got to do it multiple times a week, every single week, for a period of time until it's basically ingrained within you. Why do we brush our teeth every night? I guarantee you, everyone listening to this would have brushed their teeth every single night, and they would have done so since they were kids, right? And the reason you would be still doing that today is because your parents would have insisted that. Right, are you ready for bed? Go brush your teeth. Have you finished your dinner? Right, go brush your teeth. There would have been an insistence there from your parents to brush your teeth and continue to brush your teeth. And over the early stages of your life, it would have become so ingrained that your parents wouldn't be asking you. It'd just be something that you know you needed to do, you habitually would do right before you go to bed. And now, as an adult, you still do it because it is ingrained within you. It hasn't changed. And you still do that fact. And you know you keep doing it, even when you have to question it yourself and go, oh man, I couldn't be bothered, or oh, I forgot to brush my teeth. Then you go, crap, no, I need to, because firstly, you probably want that minty taste fresh in your mouth. It helps you sleep. It gets rid of any sort of residue of food that you might have eaten for dinner. Secondly, you know it's hygienic. You know it's healthy. You know it's looking after your teeth, which are really important to maintain and clean. And thirdly, it's a habit that has been instilled within you for such a long period of time. You don't want to break that habit now. You don't want to get out of routine. So that's how you achieve success, through repetition. And I guarantee you, you read anyone's book, Richard Branson's, Elon Musk's, Bill Gates, anyone who is successful in the world that you admire, and I guarantee you within that story, there will be some form or element of repetition. Steve Jobs is a prime example. The only way he got successful in Apple was through continually trying and repeating himself. Anyone see the Howard Hughes movie, The Aviator, with Leonardo DiCaprio? He got to a point where he continually repetitiously built planes to a point where he finally achieved what he wanted. But it was only through his perseverance, determination, and repetition that he got there. These things don't happen easily, but they can happen, and they will happen if you work really hard. All right, I think I will wind up there, and I think my message is very clear. So thank you once again for tuning in. I really do appreciate the support. I know these are few and far between at the moment, but look, in all honesty, I don't want to just pump out a podcast for the sake of it. I want to make sure that there's good content, good education. I want you to go, wow, that was awesome. I'm going to share that with a friend. So please do. Please share it on your stories. Please share it to a friend. Please share it to someone who may be struggling. I'm here to help. That's my primary job. Yes, it's a career, but I'm also here to help. I believe in what I do. I believe in the message I present, and I firmly believe I can help anyone if they're willing to help themselves. So thank you once again. If you are interested in any of my coaching services, please jump on paulsbodyengineering.com, or alternatively, simply send me an email or a DM on Instagram, and I'll happily have a chat to you and see if we can help. But for now, as I say to every client, every single day, have a great day.